zodiac is the circle of stars that embraces the Earth year-round in the form of assumed heavenly pictures that spreads 8 degrees north or south of the ecliptic, that is, the path on which the sun, moon, and planets travel in the sky. The word zodiac comes from the Greek, which, roughly translated, means animal circle. The meaning here is that in ancient times, people agreed on a series of pictures to map things out in the sky. These pictures were connect-the-dot patterns based on gods and mythical beasts. These pictures, in time, took on the aspects of celestial months that helped them decide on planting, travel, and other activities. These celestial months, the zodiacal signs, were set in writing thousands of years ago and became fixed time periods. However, the stars are not as fixed in the heavens as people have assumed. Over the millennia, it has been discovered that the stars have moved. This is because the Earth wobbles like a top. The duration of this wobble, as it turns out, is 25,000 years. The star Polaris was not always directly over the North Pole, nor will it remain so. And the birth signs people use in horoscopes are not necessarily in concert with the physical displacement of stars. For instance, if you were born an Aries, the sun may not have actually been located in the sign of Aries at your birth. It may actually have been in Pisces, one whole zodiac sign back. The job of the astrologer is to find the accurate times and positions of things when dealing with any issue. The branch of astrology that deals with calibrating precession, or earth wobble, as it is called, in conjunction with the cultural norm of where traditional signs have been listed on the calendar, is called sidereal astrology. But the cultural norm still has quite a hold on people, as a traditional Aries may still behave like an Aries, regardless of where the sun is. And if one is patient enough, in 25,000 years, one's birth date will once again be an Aries, or whatever one's sign is.
The moon is one of the most easily observed of the heavenly bodies, and because it constantly changes from new to full to new again, is the one that has most fascinated mankind since ancient days. Because it constantly changes, it is often associated with the nature of woman. When the moon is new, it is conjunct, or in exactly the same sign and at the same degree as the sun. For example, during the first 3 weeks of July, the sun is in the sign of Cancer. The new moon during that time in July will also be in the sign of Cancer. The new moon can't be seen at the time of its birth, so to speak, until about 5 to 6 hours afterwards, as it's obscured by the brilliance of the sun. As the moon slowly moves away from the sun, a couple of days after the new moon, it can be seen in the west as a small silver crescent shortly after the sun sets. The new moon is a time period for new beginnings, and it was believed that the time of the new moon was very good for beginning new projects. The time from the new moon through the second quarter is the time of the waxing moon. This is a time period for increase and a time period for growth. The third quarter moon is the most famous time of the moon, the full moon. During the time of the full moon, the moon is full when it is 180 degrees, or exactly opposite the sun. What this means is, again, going back to our initial example, during the time period when the sun is in the sign of Cancer, the full moon will occur in the sign of Capricorn. The full moon rises in the east when the sun is setting in the west, and this is traditionally held to be a most powerful time. There are countless legends and superstitions associated with this most radiant time of the moon, and there are legends from every culture which try to explain the moon's phases. There are stories of the man in the moon, but according to some cultures, they see a rabbit. We also hear of full moon madness, or lunacy, which of course comes from another name for the moon, Luna, and it was thought that people would go mad under the rays of the full moon if they were susceptible to its influence. We also hear of the werewolf, the mild-mannered man who turns into a raging beast under the beams of the full moon. Some people believe that hospitals and police stations are busier during the time of the full moon, and statistics would seem to bear this up. There's also another belief that births increase at the time of the full moon, but according to statistics, they actually crest 3 days past the full moon. As a moon moves towards its last phase, the fourth quarter phase, it is called the time of the waning moon. The waning moon is traditionally held to be a time period of banishing things that you no longer want in your life, a time for endings, a time for decreasing, such as dieting, and a time to reorganize. The moon is held to be at its last quarter when it is exactly 90 degrees away from its full moon phase. One thing I have noticed is that right before the moon goes new again, the time that's called the dark of the moon, there's also an increase in bad behavior, and it's almost as if everyone's dark side, or evil twin, comes out to play. This is an astrological calendar. The dark circle on the calendar indicates the time of the new moon. The white circle on the calendar indicates the time of the full moon. Another thing that many calendars have on them are these leaves, which indicate fertile days or best planting days, and these fish, which are supposed to be good days to go fishing and for also breeding livestock. Since ancient days, people have planted their crops by the moon. They've used the time period from the new moon to the full moon to plant crops where the fruit grows above the ground. They would use the waning moon, or the time when the moon was full to new, to plant crops whose yield was mostly below ground. The time of the full moon to the new moon, or the waning moon, was used to plant crops where the majority of the yield grew below the ground. Plants that came back year after year were also planted. The time period of the new moon and the full moon were considered the very best times to plant, as it has been shown that seeds absorb water a little bit better during both of those time periods. When the moon is in the water signs was considered the best time to plant, and this would be when the moon was in the signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. The next best time to plant was when the moon was in an earth sign, which would be Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. Almanacs were some of the earliest printed books. Their popularity extended beyond the agricultural community, showed the best time periods to begin love affairs, to invest in businesses, and to travel. The almanacs also show the times of high tide and low tide, which, if you made your living by the sea, was a pretty important thing to know. If we look at the almanac, it has all sorts of useful information in it, including moon tables. I would suggest that if you're interested in using the moon, to buy yourself a copy of the almanac and see what insights come.
Well, actually, the halfway point between the fall equinox and the winter solstice is November 1st, and it corresponds to Beltane on the wheel, which is May 1st. And it marks the end of the growing season and the beginning of winter, so it was thought of as the new year by the ancient Celts who lived around 1000 BC. This was a time when the animals were slaughtered that couldn't be fed over the winter, and the crops were brought in. The Celts called it Samhain, and we see it spelled as Samhain. So this is one of their biggest holidays of the year, and it was passed down to us, luckily. As the days grew darker and colder, the Celts believed that on October 31st, the boundaries between the material world and the spirit world became very thin. This was the best time to communicate with the spirits of the dead who had crossed over. Samhain is a great time to do divination using crystal balls, Ouija boards, and reading the flames of the fire. It is the time of the crone, the hag who represents the Dark Mother, the goddess of death, the midwife who takes us out of this world and into the world of death and transformation. Black is the color of transformation. It was the time to honor the ancestors and all those who have crossed over from matter to spirit. Ancestor rituals were usually held at burial mounds. Shamanic journeys were conducted to the underworld. People tried to connect to the dead in the spirit realms in order to gain oracular knowledge and special healing powers. The ancient Celts always marked major holidays with a bonfire, and on Hallows Eve, the children would go door to door asking for peat to add to the fire. This custom later, of course, became trick or treat, and the children that go from house to house represented the souls of the dead. In the past, they were given soul cakes to make them happy and to go away. Nowadays, we give them candy instead. Halloween has similar celebrations in other countries also. In Mexico, this day is called the Day of the Dead. People buy candy skulls and skeletons and go to cemeteries to put flowers and candles on their relatives' graves. At midnight, everyone goes to the church for a memorial service. Here I have some candy caskets and cadavers that were given to me by some of my Mexican friends. On El Día de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead in Spanish, altars generally remain in the home for a few days and are mainly adorned with cut paper and marigolds, the flower of the dead. They're also decorated with votive candles and religious images, or portraits of dead relatives. Food offerings of the favorite dishes of the deceased are an essential part of the altar. It is believed that if the food is tasted after the soul has visited the altar, it will be tasteless and odorless, to prove that the spirit has consumed its essence. The lights of the votive candles act kind of as a lighthouse to attract and guide the souls of the deceased to their own altar, and the way is strewn with marigold petals so they don't get lost. Today, as in pre-Hispanic times, this celebration is done in a festive way. This is also a good time of year to do banishings. Just as the leaves are falling from the trees, we must also learn to let go of those things that no longer serve us on our path. As the light fades and the moon wanes and the year ends, we use this special time of year to release old worn objects or ideas. It's time to let go of that which prevents you from evolving on your own unique path, whether it be a regret, a fear, a relationship, or an attitude. Forgive yourself, forgive others, and go on. Now, I would like to end this segment with two quotes from John Lennon and the Persian Sufi mystic Rumi. The first quote by Lennon comes from his song Tomorrow Never Knows. And it goes, "We all play the game existence till the end of the beginning." And you can see the themes of death and rebirth there. The last quote is from Rumi, and it goes like this: "Wanderer, stay hungry and honor your exile. Wherever we came from in the first place, that's where we're headed."
Well, the history of belly dance is not unlike the history of countries around the world. Borders change, countries disappear, they become renamed, they blend, and so do the dances blend from the countries that they come from. You're going to find an exchange of movements in the dance, and you're also going to find some movements and some dances that totally disappear. A good example of a country and dance that this has occurred in would be Siam. It was a wonderful country that was well known around the world for a very long time. The dancers were pretty much center stage, and they seem to have created the head slide and the snake arms, and many times there was like a person behind them, which kind of makes you think of the Siamese twins. And also, they also had a wonderful control of balance, which was very intriguing to a lot of dancers. But the country disappeared, And so the dancers also seem to disappear from center stage. Now Siam is now known as Thailand. Also, what appeared to happen is that because there are a lot of conquering that took place, okay, and when you conquer a country, you take the people and you put them into slavery. When they're put into slavery, a lot of their dances went with them, and they incorporated different countries' dances and making them into their own dance. Like, for instance, if they're brought into slavery into a place such as Egypt, you're going to have a blending of such countries as Spain, Africa, and Arab countries. And of course other countries that don't appear to exist any longer. The names have been changed. If you look at the history of dance, you will find that many of the dances have similar movements in them around the world. For example, if you look at the Hawaiian hula or the Tahitian dance, you're going to find the hip movements are very similar to belly dance. Plus the costume has some little fringes here that exaggerate the hip movements as it does in belly dance, and especially in the cabaret costumes and some of the more ethnic type costumes, okay? You also have the bare midriff, which also exaggerates some of the movements. You're going to see that in your flamenco dance, some of the movements of the flamenco dancers are actually very similar to belly dancing or belly dancing, cabaret dancing. They also have castanets made out of wood, or belly dancers use wooden castanets or zills. The belly dance is mostly the folk dance, basically what it means, and it's your more ethnic movement. You're going to find most of those dancers are going to be trying to dress like the countries that they came from. They're going to have costumes sometimes that are covering them from head to toe, and they're going to be dancing more ethnic steps, and a lot of down hips are exaggerated. And of course the music's going to be more ethnic music, so it's going to be a stronger drum beat, more inclined to be. And some of the music even has a tone. The instruments actually sound like the Scottish bagpipe. Whereas your cabaret dance, it's more associated with a young lady who went to the World's Fair in the 1800s to see some belly dancers. And while she was there, the name of the dance that was presented, they interpreted it as to mean dance of the stomach. Well, the people watching were very disappointed because they expected to see the stomach, and in fact the costume was covering them from head to toe. So this young lady took notes and she designed a costume. She claimed to have come across with them, which of course they denied. And she gave herself the name of Little Egypt and displayed herself as a dancer. And the costume she designed is what the cabaret costume is pretty much taken after, and it exposes the midriff. And now the original cabaret costume, now sometimes they dance in Egypt wearing a cabaret costume, but they still wear netting across their midriff because in that country it's illegal to expose yourself. A good thing to remember with belly dancing is that you're exercising, or while you're dancing at all, is to be sure that you go at your own pace, like yoga. Do not compare yourself to anyone else because everyone is unique and they have their own rhythm. Never compete with anybody else but yourself. Have fun. And also, note that you are in control of your body. It teaches you how to use your mind to control your body and not let your body control you. Like, for instance, many times people say, there's no way I can do that. Well, we can teach you to find out, you know what, you really can do that. But you still need to listen to your body. If you need to sit down and rest, you need to go ahead and do that. The Arab countries, they have their Arab dancers, and you see the males doing Greek dancing, and it keeps you in shape. It's a wonderful way to, how do I say, massage your internal organs, and stay healthy. It's a healthy form of entertainment and a healthy form of keeping your health in shape.
The traditional constellation assigned to early fall, and the one taking up most of October, is Libra. For stargazing purposes, its two prominent stars are Zubin el Ganubi, the southern claw, and Zubin Eshamali, the northern claw. Also featured is the globular star cluster NGC 5897. If you stand facing directly south at 9 p.m., you'll see Pegasus and its great square with multifaceted jewels in front of you. This is a good way to learn the constellations. Stand facing south at 9 p.m. and learn the constellation most prominent featured before your eyes. 1 is the number of the new start. Opportunities and beginnings present themselves. Leadership is required, and going it alone is often the calling. It is the sign of the magician or magus, a time to forge ahead, a controlling force, and a masculine energy. It may also signify domineering tendencies or aggression. 1 can be boastful, impatient, arrogant. Selfishness and intolerance is its downfall. Key 1 is the magician or wise man and contrasts with the fool. He is in a garden looking down at his immediate vicinity rather than up in the heights looking skyward. He is the link between above and below. His concern is manifestation of the ethereal. He therefore transfers from one hand that which is above to bring to the fore through his other hand that which is below. He is self-conscious awareness, the objective mind. Attention and alertness is his trademark. He is the transformer of energy. Likewise, the garden is the subconscious he must tend and cultivate. The cup is his imagination, the sword his action, the coin the fruit of his endeavors. The key, then, is to improve one's power of concentration.